Wuji stance, standing pole practice. We're gonna have 5 conditions that we'll be cycling our awareness through while practicing this stance. And in general, the overarching, you could say maybe 6 condition we'll start with is just this idea of omnidirectional redistribution of tone. So instead of feeling like gravity is constantly just providing this downward pressure on us, crushing us into bad posture, into all these less than optimal positions, we want to start to feel the biotensegrity of the structure and how our body can actually expand in all directions, and it can deal with forces in all directions. So starting to feel the ground reaction force coming up through the system, gravity coming down on the system, and how the structure can actually, at every joint, at every place, can expand outwards. So thinking almost like the sun, everything is radiating from the center out. Overarching principle to keep coming back to, seeing if you could find this 0 point between all of these forces. Now the 5 conditions that we'll cycle through. We'll start with the feet. Thinking I want to keep all the toes, the edges of the feet, all nice and connected to the floor. Inside edges of the feet are parallel, and the feet are going to be somewhere between the hips and the shoulders. What feels good to you in there. From here, you're going to keep the weight centered on this bubbling well point near the center of the foot. And I'm going to feel how I can have the forces running up all of the central lines of the body. So first condition is the feet, staying centralized, evenly distributed, nice position. Coming up to the knees are unlocked and light and loose. Where they're positioned will more be determined on the hips and the pelvis. But eventually what should happen is that the knees should line up right with the edge of the toes. But to do that, we come to the pelvis, and just as we were doing with the quad rotations and the storks, we're going to think of sinking that quad if we can. So bringing the pelvis down to join the femurs, lowering our center of gravity. And then if you can, you're going to feel around your ribs and almost how it can hang, and the pelvis can hang and free float below the ribs here. So for some, depends on where you have excess tension. For me in particular, it's learning to let go and relax this lower back so that the pelvis can hang in the back in this neutral position. I don't want to be anterior tilting or posterior tilting, but allowing it to hang and find its neutral place. While doing that, I'm still staying centered on the balls of the feet, or I should say on the bubbling well point. And so it should start to feel like the center point here between your belly button and back is right over that bubbling well point. So that will be the third, is the pelvis. Then we come to the chest. You would think of keeping the chest humble. I'm not trying to cave it or stick it out, but it's just nice and relaxed. Shoulders aren't rolled forward or rolled back, but they just hang lightly to the side, almost like you're draping them over the edges. So what can help is rolling forward, rolling back, and then out to the side. Arms can just lightly hang down, fingers lightly touching. So chest is the fourth with the arms. The fifth will be the head. With this, you can imagine the Marshall crown, as it's called, or the high point of the head, is being hung up by a string and being pulled up to the sky. And what can help with this is almost imagining your ear line, and that line is what's going up. And it's going to start to create this elongation through the spine up at the upper portion. So that's the fifth point. Crown is being suspended from above, axially stretching you upwards. Chest is soft, arms are draped to the sides. Right below the ribs, the pelvis hangs neutral, not anterior or posteriorly tilted excessively in either way. Knees are nice and lightly bent. Center of the weight is on the bubbling well and evenly distributed. And then omnidirectionally redistributing the tone outwards in all directions, releasing excess tension, and starting to feel how you can find this almost floating 0 point. Keep cycling through the conditions. Don't expect to master this right away, but continue to come back and practice, refine, find new ways to perceive this meta stance, shall we say. One last view from the front.